Okay, on today's episode, Jon Forward is joining me to talk about his solo show for the Fundy Fringe Festival called Role Model. This is happening in St. John, New Brunswick from August 18th, 2026 to August 22nd, 2026. You can find all the information, schedule, and grab some tickets at fundyfringefestival.com. All right, here we go, my chat with Jon Forward. All right, thanks a lot for coming on the show today, Jon. I appreciate you giving me some of your time to talk about Role Model performing, or I should say being presented next week at the Fundy Fringe Festival here in St. John.
My pleasure. I like we just talked about before we started. I did my own show there at Campus Radio for many years, and I would have been happy to get such a celebrity guest as myself on there. So
yeah, I'm like, can't. I'm like, my cheeks are red. You know, I'm kind of like I can't even think of the right word. I'm pretty nervous. So.
Yeah. Campus Radio alumni.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people connected to this station here in the city. It's always fun. Learn. I mean, it's got to be at least 50-50 people I talk to around the community. They have some sort of connection to local FM.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I still run into people that I worked with 25 years ago there.
That's fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great place. So that's good. I'm glad the connection's there.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the show Role Model. The website, Fundy Fringe website, describes it as funny, honest, and occasionally heartbreaking. So maybe you, without giving too much away, of course, maybe you could tell my listeners or give my listeners a little inside scoop on what it's all about.
Well, this is going to be my 7th time performing at the Fringe, and this is probably going to be my most ambitious show. I've done stand-up comedy shows at the Fringe. I've dabbled in the first time I kind of went off script with the stand-up was I did a show called Honey Garlic in 2017 that I would describe as more of a one-man show, but it was essentially a collection of a lot of my stand-up material about like my childhood and my family and stuff like that. But that was a good opportunity to pad it out and be a little bit more vulnerable and lean more into the storytelling than I mean, it was still a very funny show, but I felt a little bit more free to tell the story without having to shoehorn a punchline in every now and then. So this one's going to be a little bit different in that this is me in full one-man show mode. It will be funny, I hope, but I've got one story to tell over the hour, and it basically is about, I give a little bit of backstory. Before I was a comedian, I went to school to be a teacher, and gave that a go for a few years. And back then, there wasn't that much work, and also I wasn't very good at it, so that's not a good combo. So I gave it a go for a few years and stepped away. And in the wreckage of my abandoned career and a little bit of Tuesday night drinking, me and my friends used to go down to the Cougars open mic, and I would just tell, dirty stories at the music open mic, and then that turned into I wouldn't call it a comedy career. It's a comedy something, but doing comedy, it takes a little while to get your footing and kind of click with like how you're going to do it. Everybody kind of starts out just kind of an imitation of the people that influence them until they call it finding your comedy voice. And that's always a work in progress, but it's something I'm conscious of. And every time I think I've got it figured out, then the next move forward that I make, I realize how badly I was doing before. But with that context, I always thought of teaching as kind of the one that got away, and I always had it in the back of my mind, like, man, if I had just stuck it out a little bit longer, tried a little bit harder, maybe it would have clicked for me there too. Maybe I would have found my teacher voice. But that just got further and further in the rearview mirror as the years went on. The longer I was out, the harder I felt like it would be to even try to get back in. I'm just imagining just a new classroom of fresh-faced new teachers coming out of school. There wasn't really a path back. But then, after the pandemic and everything reopened, we found ourselves into a bit of a teacher shortage. And all of my teacher friends, whenever I run into them, they'd all be begging and pleading me, John, we need you back. Mostly, some of them it was because they had cushy district office jobs and didn't like getting pulled into cover for substitute teachers that they didn't have enough of.
Yeah.
But they were like, John, we need you to come back. There's a teacher shortage. We need all hands on deck, everybody that we can get. And I was curious, but it seemed irresponsible for me to quit a steady full-time job to go back to being a substitute teacher in my 40s. And also I had started doing stand-up comedy in the meantime. And, whenever they mentioned it, I'm like, well, guys, are you sure this is a good idea? I do say bad words into a microphone in public pretty regularly. That might be an issue. And every single one of them, without hesitation, was like, no, absolutely not. Nobody cares what you do on your own time. We need teachers. We need you, John, please. And at first I was like, no, that's a bad idea. But, I had a few months of every now and then I'd have a real bad day at my other job. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could go back and work 4 hours a day for a decent amount of money. It's not a huge amount. It was more than I was getting paid when I tried it the first time. So this, I get into the backstory a little bit in the show, but most of it is, I made an attempt to go back. I got a job interview and they basically offered me the job on the spot, but these are government employees, so that means it took them 2 months to actually get my paperwork figured out and get started.
Yeah.
But I went back just to give it a try, because it's been nagging me it was 10 years that I was out of it, and I always wondered, what if I tried again? And I found out that first year back substituting, one of the biggest changes that I made, I told myself I didn't want to yell at kids, which is a very alien concept to a teacher. But I think that kind of made all the difference in the world. I think part of the reason why I did so poorly the first time around was because I was trying too hard to be kind of an authoritarian, and didn't want to give any hint of a sense of humor.
Okay.
Which, part of the reason why I wondered, and this ties into the comedy thing, during my previous last year of full-time teaching, they were giving out awards for the different groups and teams at the end of the year. And I had a heavy metal club where I invited kids to come rock out in my classroom once a week. And I gave out some awards, and I wrote like a funny speech, and it got huge laughs in the room. So that gave me a little taste of being a comedian. But the kids were all the next day just, Mr. Forward, we heard about last night and that it was funny. They were just baffled that I had any kind of a sense of humor. And my old department head tried to tell me, like, well, maybe you should try being that guy in the classroom. And I never really figured that out. So this time around, I tried harder to be that guy. Mm-hmm. I obviously wasn't, doing jokes like I do on stage when I'm doing stand-up, but I was a little bit looser. And like I said, I didn't want to yell at kids, and just not screaming and yelling at them made a huge difference. I'm not going to say that I was like the greatest substitute teacher of all time, but it was a different experience. And, all those years of stand-up and public speaking, trying to win over a half paying attention audience of drunks isn't that different from teenagers. Except for my audiences at a comedy show are allowed to leave if they want to.
So you do have a committed audience in the school there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So captive audience. I try to be more sympathetic to them, because I know they kind of had to be there, and I just didn't want to be the worst part of their day. And I had some good days. I had some bad days. I got to kind of be funny with the kids. I had good days where I actually got to teach something instead of just being a warm body to hand out crossword puzzles. And, I connected with, every now and then I'd see a sad kid sitting by themselves, and I would try to sit down and have a conversation with them. Some of them weren't interested. I left them alone, but some of them, I think I made a good connection. But, it was an interesting experience for that first year, but I don't know, that summer I applied for a couple of jobs, and even though there was a teacher shortage, I didn't get one phone call for a job interview. So I was like, well, I gave it a go. That's it. And I got a new job, and I had a foot out the door. I was supposed to start like sometime in the third week of September at AIM Recycling, which exploded 4 days before my first day of work was supposed to be.
Nice.
The whole city was engulfed in smoke for a couple of days.
Yep.
Back in 2023. And I was in a panic. I didn't know if I still had a job to come to on Monday. And I just saw that one of the local high schools had posted a math and science teaching job, and that's my wheelhouse. So I applied for that as a plan B. I was still planning on going into the new job on Monday after I eventually got a hold of my manager. But Sunday, right before I was supposed to start the new job, I got a phone call from one of the principals and just offered me, "Hey, do you want to start tomorrow?" And it took me a minute. I mean, I wasn't expecting that quick of a turnaround, so I asked for a couple of days so I could weigh out what was the greater evil, the public school system or AIM recycling. And I decided, you know what? I had kind of a hit or miss experience with that first year of substituting. Let's give it a try being a full blown teacher. And it was at the high school that I went to. It was the one that I had the best experiences with when I was substituting. So it was the kind of the best case scenario. And I got in there, and I was surprised at how well it was working. Having my own classes, and again, the public speaking experience, and I'm a bit more patient now at this age than I was in my 20s. And I was getting along with my students. I was getting along with the other staff. I was doing well. I got great performance reviews. The whole time, though, I'm still kind of in the closet as a comedian, because I read all the paperwork and the codes of conduct and stuff, and I knew that there wasn't anything that was an obvious problem, except for while I was out, like back in 2019 at my show at the Fringe Festival, I did like a 20-minute chunk of my hour about my past teaching experience, and I knew that stuff needed to come offline. That was more clear-cut, black and white. Can't be talking about the job and about students and other teachers and stuff like that. So I took that down, but I didn't think there was any problem with it with the other stuff. But I also didn't want to scream it from the rooftops. But everybody kind of found out anyway. Kids started finding me online, and I panicked and locked down my stuff. Every time that somebody found something, I'm like, "Oh, Facebook, you need to be 18 plus. Uh-oh, they found my TikTok, private. Block every kid that tried to follow me." If they had kept their mouth shut, I would have kept posting content for them all year, but they can't. They don't have good impulse control. And the teachers and the staff all found out that I was a comedian. That was more because I was hosting LOL Fest at the Imperial Theater, and that was being advertised on the radio. So my name was being said, and my face was on the poster. One of the other teachers just bought a ticket for a comedy show and noticed afterwards that my name was on it. He's like, "What's this all about?"
Yeah.
But everybody found out, and nobody was upset. The vice principal asked me if I wanted to do a set at the office Christmas party that year. I said no, because no comedian wants to do an office Christmas party, let alone their own.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, what? Are you too dirty? We're all adults. We can handle it." But I was pretty relieved that the cat was out of the bag, and it didn't seem to be a problem until it was. Some of my students were less appreciative of what they found online, and kind of turned into a situation. The parents called the school, and a few kids wanted to be pulled out of my classroom, and that set off a chain of events. I got hauled into the district office for a meeting about inappropriate posts on my social media, and those HR ladies hated my guts. It quickly stopped being about the impact on the students, and started to be about anyone who says these things ever in any context is a bad person and should not be a teacher. It all kind of came down to there's the line in the code of conduct that says teachers can't take off their teacher hats when they walk out that door at the end of the day. We need to be 24/7 role models. And I tried to make a case that, maybe I am a role model. I'm an artist. I've been honing my craft. I've been running my own show for over a decade and giving people opportunities that I never had. Lights turned off in here. And, then I tried to make my case that maybe I am a role model, and then they just snapped back at me with some horrific quote from one of my stand-up bits. And
yeah.
that kicked off the union did have my back, that, I was getting good performance reviews all around every minute of every day in the building. Nobody had any complaints about that. So they basically gave me an ultimatum. I had to pick one or the other, teaching or comedy. And I said, well, I don't think I should have to pick one or the other. And I went down with that ship. So the show is about everything that led up to that ultimatum and what happened after I said no.
Okay.
And that's the show. But I'm not going to spend the hours complaining and whining or any kind of like illegal. This isn't going to be an episode of Law and Order Comedy Edition. I'm telling the story, and it is the story of the one that got away, and how I actually did get back together with my old teaching career, and accidentally kind of fell in love with it. It was, for those 7 months that I was in there, it's some of the happiest work time of my life. I was happy to get up and go in the morning, and I was happy, and I was in a good mood all day. And afterwards, when I got home, that doesn't mean there was no bad days, but overall, it was very good experience for me. I was doing well, and then it all came crashing down, and they kind of broke my heart, and that's kind of the emotional core of the story.
Okay. Wow, that's a fascinating arc. So, that sounds like it's going to be a pretty interesting experience. So, role model, what a perfect title.
Yeah.
And so,
there should be a question mark on that. I still don't know if I am or I'm not. So I guess that's up for the audience to decide. But I'm going to present my story, warts and all, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm a role model or not. It's kind of a silly thing to even. It's kind of an I know it when I'll see it kind of situation. It's hard to define. So.
Yeah. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, but I'd be curious to know, so it's about an hour-long show. Does it take a long time to whittle down the story and kind of like choose the moments to put a spotlight on?
Yeah, that's been a tough part, because also, this isn't ready for anything, but I've also been writing kind of a fictionalized novel version of the story, so I've got lots of material to figure out how to fit that into the hour has been tough. I think my first draft, I timed it out in my basement. It was about 90 minutes, so I had to cut that down, and we're down to the wire. I'm still my last practice run came in at about 55 minutes, and it's hard to judge. If I have to pause, if there's too many laughs, then that might be a problem.
Oh, yes. Okay.
We'll find out.
You have to, when you're practicing the performance, you have to be aware of like speaking faster to fit in more information versus presenting
it's always a balance.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the same as, well, doing a comedy set's typically like 10 minutes. So that's kind of, I'm used to aiming for a particular time.
Okay.
You would think that having the hour would be easier, but it's a big story. So deciding it just, in comedy, you want to have like punchline. You want to take a premise and just wring as much juice out of it as you can. But with this, I had to make some tough decisions and be like, that line is super funny, but it's basically making the same point as this one that came right before it. So I'm losing a laugh because it's not benefiting the story. So doing the one-man show, focusing on that arc and telling the story is a bit different than telling a joke where you're just trying to get maximum laughs. I do want to get laughs, but this is a tougher nut to crack, and I feel like I'm up for it though.
Okay. Cool. So that's Role Model by Jon Forward. You can catch that at St. John Arts Center next week. That's August 18th. Let's go through the times here. So August 18th at 8:05 p.m., August 19th at 6:30 p.m., August 20th at 8:25 p.m., August 21st at 8:10 p.m. and August 22nd at 2:55 p.m. Again, all at the St. John Arts Center as part of the 2026 Fundy Fringe Festival. Besides catching you next week, Jon, what's the best place to send people to if they want to learn more about your story or keep an eye on what you're up to?
You can just accost me on the street or find me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, or you can come if you want to see the stand-up comedy version of me. You can come see my No Jokes Barred shows that I've been running for since 2014, or any other show that I'm lucky to get added to.
No Jokes Barred, does that move around venues, or do you have a home for that?
Mostly just if we get kicked out of a venue or they go out of business. But
Okay.
we've had a pretty good run at Wasted Day Brewing on Water Street for the last couple of years, and hopefully for more years to come.
Okay, awesome. So that's perfect. Yeah, thanks a lot. I'll put a link to that too, and this will go up online probably as like a little podcast episode, so I can link around to that sort of stuff too.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for giving me some of your time today, Jon. Sounds like a fascinating story. It's going to be an interesting show, and I'm excited. I mean, Fundy Fringe is such a cool festival, so I'm excited that you're presenting again next week.
I'm excited to be able to do it again.
Yeah, wicked. Well, thanks again, and I guess maybe we'll have to have you back at Local FM for like a walk down memory lane sometime.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.